The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Ilen Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we get into things, I'd just like to give our listeners a gentle reminder to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our sponsors at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose Credit Union, choose local, choose community. Now, our guest on this week's podcast is Colm O'Shea of Doheny, who head into this weekend's Senior A Football Championship clash against the Ilen Rovers, knowing that a win will guarantee them a spot in the semi-final. So while they've already qualified from their group, there's still a lot to play for. So we'll be hearing from Colm on that, his thoughts on where football is in general at the moment and why he thinks Doheny have gotten off to a good start this year. So that's coming up later on. And before we get to that though, Kieran, there's been plenty happening as always in West Cork sport. And let's start this week with Darragh McElhinney. And you have a big interview with him in this week's Southern Star. And just for a bit of context, I guess a lot of people might have been a bit surprised about the fact he wasn't participating in the World Athletics Championships in Budapest a couple of weeks ago. Your interview with him kind of goes into why and explains the reasoning.
Exactly, and I actually got an email in a couple of weeks ago, just before the Worlds, from a reader asking where is Darragh and why isn't Darragh at the Worlds. So this is an explainer why I had a good chat with Darragh. We actually spoke just an hour or so after the men's 5,000 metre final at the World Championships in Budapest, just a week before last. And that's the race where, if all went according to plan, Darragh would have been in that race. So it was just interesting to get his thoughts. Just that race was so fresh in his mind. But Darragh, like, he's been in this podcast numerous times over the years. He's one of the most honest, upfront fellas sports people you could ever meet. He's so open, and he calls it as it is, and he tells it as it is. So in Thursday's Southern Star, he just goes into detail what happened this summer, what contrived against him getting those qualification times that he needed to qualify for the Worlds, and also the lessons that he can learn to take into what's going to be a huge year for him. Because in 12 months' time, we have the Olympics, and Darragh McElhinney wants to get to those games in Paris. He wants to race in the men's 5,000 metres. So he knows what he needs to do to get there, i.e. getting those qualification times or hitting the qualifying standard. And the lessons that he learned from this past summer, but even this past 12 months, as he goes into detail about, that will hopefully stand to him. Because Darragh is finished college now. He was studying up in UCD, but that course is over. So he's now a full-time athlete. He was back in training there last week after taking a short break during the summer. And when I say a short break, 11 days he took off, Dylan, and he admits he cracked during one of those days and he's still been out for a jog. So someone like Darragh, like, when you're such an elite athlete at that level, I think it's important mentally and physically to get a break. But that just showed you what he's like, that he broke during his break, that he still got that jog in. But no, it's a very interesting read. It'll be up on the southernstar.ie/sport for our subscribers as well to sink their teeth into. But it's just a real honest assessment of what went wrong for Darragh this summer. And as people will discover, there was a lot of little things that all added up to him missing out on the Worlds.
Yeah, especially for an athlete as well, like little things can kind of snowball and kind of very quickly you can find yourself, when the margins are so slim as well, you can quickly find yourself kind of missing out. Like, look, going into Paris, like, should we be expectant or what's the kind of general mood around it?
I think when we're talking about Darragh, I suppose it's always just to almost temper the expectation, because he's still only 22 years of age. His rise over the last 6 years has been incredible. From a schools athlete to under 20, under 23, what he's done in cross country, what he's done indoor, outdoor, national senior champion in both. Even go back to February, he won the national senior indoor, I think 3,000 meter title. And he's been constantly on this trending upwards. But this summer he hit a bump in the road. But that was always going to be the case, because sport is not linear for everyone. There's going to be ups and downs. And I think Darragh did experience that this summer. So, like I said, he's still young. He's 22. He's at 23 till the end of the year. So when we're talking about where Darragh McElhinney will almost reach his peak, you're talking, it's really years down the line. I know you have the likes of Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who's just a freak of nature, the Norwegian, who's he's been staffing up goals for the last couple of years. But for Darragh, the plan is, I think when he hits 26, 27, 28, that he will then be in a position to medal at the highest levels. Saying that though, go back to the European Indoors this year, he finished fourth in the final there and just missed out in the middle. So it shows you that he wasn't too far away from that level then, and he's only going to get better and better. This will probably doesn't seem like it now, because Darragh's a sort too, I think, who can be kind of hard on himself. But I think this will stand him in the long run, because he knows now what he needs to do to be in the right shape to get those qualifying times to get to Paris. And that will be his goal for the next 12 months. And touch wood that it all works out and we do get Darragh to Paris, because we're going to have a large West Cork contingent. And we spoke about it before, Dylan. We need that petition going to get the Star Sport podcast over to Paris next summer. So if Darragh gets through, it's another West Cork athlete. And it's another reason why we can knock on our MD's door and say, get us over there.
Absolutely. And just one final point on Darragh as well. He's somebody who's always struck me that, like, in a sporting sense, because he is so young, and you mentioned there that his peak is still on the way, but at such a young age, his highs have been quite high already. And that always seems to be a mark of where somebody can reach, like, consistently, once they do reach their peak as well.
That's exactly it. Like, he's achieved so much. I remember talking to one of his former coaches years ago, Steve Macklin, who said, like, he's one of these kind of once in a generation athletes that come along. Like, he's that gifted. Like, what he did at schools level was, as far as I know, was unprecedented. The collection of medals that Darragh put together, and he's taken that form right through, and he's been really strong. And like I said, whether it's national seniors, going to the European Indoor Final, finishing fourth. Go back to last year's European Championships in Munich, and going into the last lap, he was inside in the top 10. He was even 7th or 8th at one point, if I remember correctly, before just it caught up with him right at the end. So there's a very high ceiling there for Darragh, and he's going to get better and better. Like, because he's so talented, but as well as that, it's just his commitment to those 1%ers, and it's those 1%ers that really make the difference when you're talking about the elite athletes. And whatever he needs to do, he'll do. Whether it's rehab or prehab or warm-ups, or he'll do everything so diligently and right to the point that he just gives himself the best chance of performing on the day. Okay, it didn't work out for him this summer, but like I said, a blip, it's a bump in the road. He'll learn from it, and he'll definitely, 100% he'll bounce back. But when you talk about Darragh's potential, I always go back to it was the 2016 games in Rio, and that was the games where Paul O'Donovan and Gary won silver. They were the pride of West Cork. Like, what they did for West Cork was incredible. But Darragh McElhinney, he was a junior cert student in Closh Public Bantry. He went out to those Rio games to Uberlande with Arthur Lanigan O'Keefe and Natalia Kyle, 2 Irish pentathletes, as a kind of a training partner for them. So that shows you that's 7 years ago, and Darragh was 15.
Yeah.
And he was brought out for a 2 or 3 week camp in Brazil to help 2 Irish pentathletes. So his talent is there. We've known about it for a long time. He's definitely delivering on his talent. Look at last year. He won gold indoor, outdoor, and cross country all at senior level. Like, that's incredible. What a hat trick of titles. So we know how good he is. And I really, really do think that the best is yet to come. And like I said, hopefully now the next 12 months will pan out great for him, and he'll get his ticket to Paris.
Absolutely. Darragh for Paris, and the Star Sport podcast for Paris as well. And Kieran, on last week's podcast, we were talking about how there were so many different permutations for West Cork clubs in the various hurling championships. Those games have now happened, the results are in, and the headlines there, I guess the fans of Newcestown, Kilbrittain and Barry Rowe will be delighted to see their clubs through after a good weekend of hurling.
Brilliant, yeah. So for Barry Rowe were already through in the Premier Junior Hurling Championship, but they knew if they got a win against Milford that they could top the group, and they did just that. They got the win that they needed. It was a bit of hard work, but they got there in the end. They won 2-12 to 113. So Barry Rowe now go directly into county semi-final, so they have bypassed the quarter-final. So that's good news for Barry Rowe because they have the football and the hurling going. So it just gives them that little extra bit of a window, an extra bit of a break to prepare for a county semi-final. What we also had then is we had Kilbrittain were in a must-win game. They were taking on Ballygarvan, and Kilbrittain just had to win this game if they wanted to progress. And that was in the same group as Barry Rowe, and Jamie Wall's men got the job done. They won 17 to 14 points. So that has sent Kilbrittain through to a county Premier Junior Hurling Championship quarter-final against Ilen Rovers on Sunday, September 17th in Ovens at 2 p.m. So mission accomplished for Kilbrittain, and they're marching on. Newcestown also knew that they were through before last weekend. They were playing in the Senior A Hurling Championship. They lost to Courcey Rovers. But I think the context is important here. Newcestown knew they were through. So like that just takes the edge off it a small bit, while Courcey's needed a win to avoid potentially getting dragged into that relegation playoff in the Senior A hurling. So Courcey's got the job done, but Newcestown march on regardless. And they're now down to play Killa on Saturday, September 16th in that Senior A Hurling Championship quarter-final in Parky Queeve. And that's a huge game for Newcestown. And good news for Newcestown fans, it's going to be live on Rebels Online. So that's one to look forward to. So we have 3 West Cork teams through, Barry Rowe and Kilbrittain in the Premier Junior and Newcestown in the Senior A. So going to be an exciting couple of weeks for all 3 clubs.
Absolutely. So time will tell to see how they get on there. Now we're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back just after the break to chat to Colm O'Shea.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And like I mentioned at the top of the pod, we're chatting to Dohony's Colm O'Shea today. Kieran, you caught up with him about the Dohony's great start in the football championship this year and about how, I guess, his thoughts on football in general. He was in good form there. But before we get on to him, there's a big weekend this weekend of football for West Cork clubs, especially in the Premier Football Championship.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the table here. Group A of the Premier Senior Football Championship. You have Clonakilty and Castlehaven both on 3 points and Carby Rangers on 2 points. So only 2 of this 3 can progress to the knockout stages. So one big West Cork gun will go. Who will it be? We will find out on Sunday. So we have Castlehaven against Clonakilty. That's at 4 o'clock in Bandon. And at the same time in Timoleague is Carby Rangers against a Valley Rovers team that also needs a win to avoid getting dragged into the relegation playoff. So really exciting weekend ahead in Group A. Who's going to go through? Beats me. It really does. Like it's
so hard to call.
It's so hard to call because there's so many different permutations there. Like there's this expectation that Carby Rangers will beat Valley Rovers, but you can't put your mortgage on that. You really can't, because Valleys are fighting for their life as well, and Carby Rangers know that they need a win. And if Carby Rangers get that win, it should be enough, depending on what happens in that Clon Castlehaven game. So there's so much going on. Like Clon could be knocked out of the championship on Sunday. The Haven, which would be a huge shock, could be knocked out. So there's a lot on the line for all those clubs. So that's going to be really exciting in the Premier Senior Football Championship. But that's the same for all the grades. And in Thursday Southern Star, we'll have a look at the different permutations from Premier Senior right down to the Premier Junior Football Championship in St. James and Orhan, what the different clubs need to do. But like you said, I was talking to Colm O'Shea of Dohony's ahead of their game against Ilen Rovers. That's on this Sunday, 2 o'clock in Timoleague. And that's a big game for both teams. Like the group of death in the Premier Senior Football, There's also a West Cork group of 8 in the Senior A football, where we've Dohenys, Newcestown and Ilen all in the same group, joined by Bishopstown from Cork City. And as it stands at the moment, Dohenys, top of the table on 4 points, are already through to the knockout stage. They'll take on Ilen on Sunday, an Ilen team with no points after 2 games, and an Ilen team that needs a result to avoid getting dragged into another relegation playoff. Huge game for Ilen Rovers. And then you also have Newcestown taking on Bishopstown on Sunday. And this is a must-win game for Newcestown because they're just behind Bishopstown on scoring difference. So the permutation for Newcestown is quite simple. They have to beat Bishopstown. Do that and they'll qualify for the knockout stage, a draw or a loss, and they're out. So it's very kind of simple for Newcestown. Forget about scoring differences and all that. They know they need to win the game. For Dohenys, they know if they beat Ilen Rovers, they'll go straight through to the semi-final and bypass the quarter-final. So there's something at stake for them too. But like I said earlier, Ilen are in I don't want to say a desperate situation, but they are in a must-win situation. So I think that game on Sunday will be huge, Ilen and Dohenys. So ahead of that game, I caught up with Colm O'Shea. Just a bit of background on Colm. He's a Kerry import. He's his home club back in East Kerry is Fireys. He's a 2-year Kerry minor footballer. So he came to West Cork with a bit of a reputation. No pressure there, Colm. He joined the club there. His first season was 2021. Himself and his wife, who is from Dunmanway, they were in Canada for a small bit, and they moved back and they settled in Dunmanway. And Declan Dwyer and Dohenys spotted the potential of the Kerry man in their midst. They lassoed him, got him into the club, and it's proved a very shrewd acquisition. Colm is doing quite well there. As you hear now, he's quite the character as well. And he also gives us an insight into the Mr. Dunmanway 2023 competition and who in the Dohenys dressing room that Colm thinks is a shoe-in to win this prestigious accolade. Forget about the Senior A Football Championship. I think all our listeners want to know is who is this Dohenys footballer that makes other footballers in that dressing room afraid to take their top off? Who is it? We really want to know, and we're going to find out in the next couple of minutes. So a really enjoyable chat with Colm, who knows that Dohenys face a huge game against Ilen Rovers, but he was also at pains to kind of point out that Dohenys are taking it one game at a time this year. Delighted now to be joined on the podcast by Dohenys Colm O'Shea. And I have to start off, Colm, and ask, how does a 2-year Kerry minor end up in Dunmanway playing for the Dohenys?
Jesus, I suppose I married in here. That's the way it went. We went travelling for Canada for 2 years, and we came back and we said we'd kind of move back to Dunmanway, and one thing kind of led to another. I kind of went down, doing a bit of training, played an all junior game, and done all right. And I suppose Decky Dwyer gave me a call up, and we played away. I played. I didn't start the first game, but I played the remaining games up to the semi-final till we were eventually beaten by Michaels in the finish. But that's the way it kind of happened, and here we are still tipping away anyway.
So you're 3 years now with the Dohenys, but let's even go back before that. Like your home club back in Kerry's Fireys, isn't it? So talk to us a small bit about even that journey from Fireys to Canada to where you are now, because there's a local woman has a big part to play in this story.
Yeah. I suppose I started playing senior football with Fireys in 2007. We're junior A club. I suppose that'd be the equivalent here in Cork, but we're very competitive in that thing. We lost the county junior final in 2017 to Drummond Pierce's, a game we definitely left there for us. Knockdegree actually went on and beat Drummond in the semi-final. But I played senior football with Fireys, all the way up till I eventually went to Canada in 2019. And we a lot of success even at minor level with Fireys. We won an East Kerry Championship. We beat Crokes in 2008. That Crokes team would have been loaded enough. You had the Dahi Caseys, the Fionn Fitzgeralds, all these fellas, that Chris Brady, they all wore Kerry senior and say under 21 jerseys and minor jerseys, and a few of them all Ireland medals. And we had a good team with Fireys that time. There was 3 of us in the Kerry minor team that time. We had myself, Jack Sherwood and John O'Mahony. Obviously Jack went on and had a successful term with Kerry, in fairness to him. But Fireys a great club. They're producing a lot of great underage talent. Very young team again at the moment. but they're a lot of good work being done underage, and you can see they're coming through again. So they're unlucky this year. They actually got knocked out of the group there last week. They won their 2 games in the group, and the third game they lost by last minute free, and they got knocked out in score difference. But it's a learning curve from They'll come again. They're a fierce young team, great young players coming through, but there's no fear for Fireys, no.
That's it. And like you said, Fireys is your home club, and Dohenys is now your new club. And like I said, it was a local woman, Geraldine Collins, who's almost the link. She's the link between home and Dunmanway right now. And does it help that your brother-in-law, Daniel O'Donovan, is a selector on the Dohenys team now? I'd say there's a couple of interesting conversations at home, is there?
There would be, Dan is Dan, like a lot of people, I suppose, around Cork know Dan, like the tall red-haired full forward, I suppose he was known as. I know was he known for his football, but he'd be a vocal enough old character, in fairness to Dan. Yeah, there would be, like, there'd be great old football chat and stuff, like, and they're the Dohenys, they're, like, I know the hurling and stuff, but they're a big football club, and no, there would be, like, I know the conversation would be good, and we got a lot of old matches around West Cork, and just like West Cork is very similar to Kerry, like, and a lot of people would say that, like, and there's plenty of matches on, and you travel away there to Clonakilty or go west to Skibbereen and all these places. No, it's just pure football, like, it's just brilliant, it's easily fit in, and it's just grand, like,
I was going to ask you that, Colm. Can you draw comparisons between Kerry and West Cork? Like, both are, like you said, they're football mad, or football strongholds.
There would be, like, very similar. Like, even there's lads I work with now down from Castletown Bear and things, and just football crazy, like, and they nearly know what's happening in the Kerry Championship as much as the Cork Championship, and just vice versa below. Like, they're saying, like, Cork football might be a bit low the last few years, but Kerry people still look out, like, for the Cork Championship, and they know the certain players coming through. Like, even say when I was growing up, you'd be always trying the eye over, like, especially playing the all Duhallow Championship stuff there. Like, we always knew the Aidan Walshes were coming through, the Matthew Dilworth, the Lachlan McLaughlin, all the Kanturk lads there, the Knocknagree fellas, you'd always be trying the eye over, like, and we'd be always playing challenge matches there. Even when I was with East Kerry and stuff, we'd come up playing, say, we were playing Ross Carberry and playing the Haven and all these. There was always a bit of a connection there, and, like, as you say, like, there definitely is a massive connection, and, like you say, there's a lot of West Cork teams travelling down to Clarny for challenge matches and stuff there now before championship kicked off, and everyone knows who's going down, and you get the feedback, like,
We're right in the midst of the championship now. So where Dohenys stand in the Senior A Championship, you're in a super place right now. You're qualified for the knockout stage with one group game to go. But talk to me a second about the Senior A Championship. Like I said, you've been with Dohenys for 3 years. How does this championship compare to, let's say, back in Kerry? But even just the competitive nature of this championship, of all the grades, I always feel like this is the one it's hardest to pick a winner.
Oh, it is crazy. Like, if you put out all the teams there at the start of the year, sure, like, it is very hard to pick it. And the group games there, sure, it is crazy. Like, that Kanturk, Skibbereen, Knocknagree, that's like group of death, like, but it's so on your day, anyone could beat anyone. It's like us with Ilen Rovers. They beat us in the league there now, like, so there's nothing for granted, and we're taking every game at a time. And, you have to, because you get caught in one act. So, it's brilliant, because on your day, anyone can beat anyone, and that's what you kind of want from championship, to degree, you go to any match, you're going to get a competitive match,
Like I said earlier, Colm, we know that Dohenys, you're already through to the knockout stage, but this game coming up against Ilen Rovers, an Ireland team that needs a victory themselves for their own reasons, like, there's still a lot at stake here for Dohenys, because first off, you want to keep the momentum and that winning feeling going into the knockout stage. Too, if you get a win here, could put you through to a county semi-final, and you bypass the quarter-final. So even though you're assured you're placed at the knockout stage, there's still a lot to play for Dohenys.
100%, like, and that's, as I said there's no game taken for granted. Like, we treat everyone the same. Like, it's a massive game. As I said, they beat us in the league. We were very good in the first half. We were up 4 or 5 points in half time, and Dan McKeown on his own literally kicked them to victory that day. He must have kicked 7 or 8 points from 40 yards. Like, he's a super left leg, and they have a few more players as well. Like, we've seen their game there against Newcestown and stuff. They're getting better, and they're fighting for their lives at this stage. So you'll take nothing for granted. Like, behind the Drummond League, some people say plays a tight field, so, like, that could suit them, and, like, they'll want to make it a battle and all that. So, like, Jesus, no, I know, yeah, it's actually a quarter final for us, if you really want to put it that way. And the fact that we win, we're straight into a county semi-final, but we're taking nothing for granted. We're training as hard as ever, so, like, there'll be nothing soft there.
2 games in the group so far. Beat Newcestown in the first game by a point, then beat Bishopstown 2-15 to 110. But let's go back to that Newcestown game for a second, because we all know how tough Newcestown are, whether it's football or hurling. So for Dohenys to beat a team that just came down to the Premier Senior as well, that must have been a big confidence boost for you.
It was, in fairness, like once the draw was made, we had a good league and all that, but we were always Newstown on the back of our mind. And I suppose I seen a few Newstown games last year and the year before, and they have their certain style. You know, they're tough, they're hard, they defend, and they get a lot of bodies back. And you know, we worked a lot in training for that, and it was always going to come down. I think Dickie Dwyer said in another interview, it planned out the exact way that we thought it would, and we were patient, and you know, we were smart, and you know, it was a last minute free, hour 45 by Aaron Mannix, but you know, we drew the few fouls out of him that day, and you know, we were patient, but we trained the way we wanted to play for that game, and everything came to the toe at the end of it, like, and yeah, but great to get over the line, one game at a time, and obviously took on Bishopstown then, but Bishopstown was always going to be a different game, but Bishopstown play football, you know. I see a lot of the senior championship at the moment, Kieran, like, you know, there's been draws of 7-8 points apiece, like, I don't know, is it the way teams are setting up, but Bishopstown there now, it was 15 on 15, you know, it was, you get your ball, you get the head up and you bomb it in, you know, but we played the same way to them, you know, it was open football, like, you know, football is in a strange place at the moment. It will get stranger again. Jim McGuinness is back in Donegal. What will he come up with? So it's a funny, like, but the teams that are going out playing 15 on 15 is it's open football. I think that's what people want to see. But at the end of the day, it's a results game, and look, we're all in it. Look, I suppose if we come up against opposition there, and we'll be inclined to park the bus a small bit too, maybe, you know.
Like, that's a very interesting point, Colm. I suppose, like, the way football is evolving, we've seen it at inter-county level, and it's definitely coming down into club level now. I presume as a club player, you want to enjoy the game as much as you possibly can. But then, like you said, it's a results business too, and that almost dictates the way tactics are going and formats and the way teams are setting up.
Oh, it is 100%, like, but like, it is changing. Like, I know I hear referring back now to the Kerry Championship, like Fossa there now last weekend, they kicked 20 points against Dunflesk and they were beaten. So there was no sweeper there, like, it was hell for leather, you know. And a lot of the Senior A Championship teams, there's a few, like, there's big scores going up. So, like, the Knocknagrees and the Skibreens, all these, and Cantork, obviously, I think they're gone away from this kind of sweeper and dropping men back. Like, I'd say they're holding at least 4 forwards up, and they're trying to play the ball. They're trying to outscore a team. The way football probably we want it to be played, the people that are watching it want to see a good game and stuff like that. But football is changing. Like, football last few years has been hard to watch even at the inter-county level, but it's changing again. So hopefully for the better. Like, and it's good for players there to go out and, you know, play the game and get the good skills at the catch and kick and get the head up, and, you know, the way it should be played, in my opinion, you know.
And how do you envisage the game against Ilen playing out in Premier League? Like we said, Ilen are a team that needs a victory for just to avoid that relegation playoff. They don't want to be stuck in another battle like that again. And like you said, this is effectively a quarter-final for Dohenys. So what sort of West Cork derby do you think will unfold? Yeah,
like, if you're Ilen Rovers, you will have to say we'll have to keep it tight. You know, we can be letting the Dohenys obviously have an open field. They'll have to keep it tight, keep the scoring zone blocked open. Hopefully they'll be planning to catch us in the counter-attack if we bomb forward too much. But we're going to have to be on our toes for that. Like, we're going to have to be cute. We're not going to have to fuel in by getting turnovers and working the ball into tackles and getting turned over. Like, we have to manage the game better. At the end of the day, it's not about a massive performance, but it's about getting over the line. And then if we happen to we'll have 3 or 4 week break and big block of training, and then you're meeting better teams in probably after that. But we're not taking nothing away from Ilen Rovers there. That's going to be a battle. Like, you could be easily put sitting there. You could be walking away from Drummond League. Let's go out in 2 weeks' time in the quarter-final, and it'll be hard to pick us up after that if results don't go right. But look, training's been good, and hopefully, look, lads, there's no one getting carried away, and but we're very wary of Ilen Rovers, just 100%.
Do you feel this Dohenys team is building towards something too, Colm? Been in the knockout stages the last couple of years, county semi-final, county quarter-final, through again this year to the knockout stages. Great talent there, the likes of Fionn Hurley in with Cork. Mark Buckley was in there before. Like, there's a lot of talent right throughout that Dohenys team, and with Dickie Dwyer in charge as well. Do you feel that there's something building within the team?
It's just building, all right, no doubt. Like, every team at the start of the year, you have to aim for something. Like, there's no doubt. Like, it has been spoken, but like at the start of the year. But as we said, with every game, we're taking every game as it comes. But I don't know, to the young fellas there, like, they came into the squad. The Shane Barrys this year, Adam Donovan, they're both playing wing forward. Like, they're they're coming in with no fear. They're like a breath of fresh air. You know, they've never been scared. They've no big losses to their name, or they're the fellas that are kind of driving it on. You know, they're playing with no fear. The head is up, and you know they're energizing the whole thing, and they give you a boost because they laugh and joke. You know, when things go wrong, it's the next ball for them. They know where the rest of us might get bogged down or think they're only move it on. Like, you know, it's the young fellas that are really drove it this year, and we've a solid core. Our defence has been absolutely outstanding the last couple of years, if you were being honest. And we build from there. We're conscious that we don't concede goals, and it is very simple the way we play. And we just want to, once everything is organised, and we just try and get the ball to the Fionns, Keith White, and of course Mark Buckley on his days, a match winner. But Rhys Coakley, midfield this year, he's been absolutely outstanding. The man is in unbelievable shape. Do you know, you've been signing the dress him there, you'd be afraid to take your top off. It's unreal. He could be a model there. Like, it's absolutely frightening. But no, in fairness, fellas are really young fellas. They're driving on. I must mention young fellas because they're breath of fresh air. In fairness, Kieran.
Oh, brilliant stuff. And all roads lead to Premier League for this huge game against Ireland. So thanks for joining us, Colm, and the best of luck in the rest of the campaign.
No bother, Kieran. Thanks very much.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Well, welcome back again to the Star Sport podcast. And Kieran, we've mentioned a couple of little bits that'll be in this week's Southern Star, such as the Darragh McElhinney interview. But what else can our readers look forward to this Thursday?
Sticking with the county football championships for a second, we've loads of previews in there. We've interviews with the Skib manager, Gene O'Donovan, the Newcestown football manager, Tim Buckley, Castlehaven manager, James McCarthy, Carbery Rangers boss, Seamus Hayes. That's all in there, as well as Hawley O'Sullivan's column on, he's looking ahead to the weekend action. And Hawley makes his prediction for the group of death. He's predicting which two West Cork teams he think will go through. So for that West Cork team that he doesn't pick, nail the Southern Star to your dressing room on Sunday and use that as your incentive to get one over on Hawley. But there's plenty in there, loads of GA action, because it is the business end, or moving towards the business end of the county championship. So obviously we've a lot of hurling in there, but also touching on the ladies football and camogie championships. And our feature ladies football game this week was the Skib and Dohony's derby in the Junior A football championship, and a big win for Skib. But you wouldn't be surprised if Skib and Dohony's met later in the competition too. Could potentially be a county final there, and what a game that would be. Also looking down through, we had the opening weekend of the West Cork League. Our feature game is Clonakilty Soccer Club against Skibbereen. Darragh McElhinney was there for us. A game where Joe Edmead got a hat-trick, and that's his second hat-trick in a row. He also got a hat-trick for Clonakilty when they beat Alta Celtic 8-0 in the Parkway Cup the previous weekend. So that's 6 goals in 2 games. So if Joe is looking for an extra gig, Man United are sorely in need of goals across channels. So I'd be indebted to Joe if he could go across the water and show United players where the back of the net is. Also, there was the All-Ireland Road Bowling Championships. The third series were on the weekend, and a weekend to remember for Drimma League's Brian O'Driscoll. And we'll have that report in Thursday Southern Star, looking at the school-by-school girls soccer, the Salane under-12 girls, that all conquering under girls team that did so well in the National Cup. They clinched the league title there, the under-12 Premier Girls title. And also the World Rowing Championships are ongoing this week. By the time you listen to this podcast, it could be on Wednesday, and the quarterfinals will have been held by then. But just as an update, as of Tuesday, Fintan McCarthy and Paula Donovan are through to the quarterfinals. They won their heat on Sunday. Aoife Casey and Max Crimmin have also advanced. They finished second in their heat. And on Monday, Jake McCarthy of Skibbereen Rowing Club won his repechage, and he's through to the quarterfinals of the lightweight men's single sculls. So far, so good for the Skib Rowers in Belgrade. And we'll have the latest news in Thursday's Southern Star. And one final thing, on Monday night, Phil Healy relinquished her 100-metre Irish national record. It finally went. Phil set that record, 11:28, back in 2018. But on Monday night, Sarah Levin, who's having an incredible season, she ran 11:27, so she beat Phil's record by 100 of a second. But Phil, being the great sportswoman and the gracious sportswoman that she is, was straight on social media congratulating Sarah, saying she couldn't have wished for a better athlete to take this national record. So gracious Phil. It's not the Irish 100-meter record anymore, but again, like we said before in this podcast, she's been a trailblazer for so many years. Maybe the incentive there is for Phil to come back and take that record back. Watch this space.
Absolutely. All that and more will be available in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. And as always, if you're further afield, can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe to the Southern Star and get it on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week, along with full access to all the subscriber-only articles on our website as well. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.